Hey everybody, Straners103 here today with a little bit of work in progress content. If it sounds like I'm being fun pleased by a little bit of a cold, then that's actually exactly what's going on, but it's not going to be too much of a problem. Hopefully it'll go away sometime soon. It probably will, I get this every year, but less about me, more about what we've got coming up. Let's try to make Graf Zeppelin great again, shall we? This is me playing Graf Zeppelin version 2. Excuse me, there's gonna be a lot of coughing through this video. I'm really sorry for that, guys. But yeah, keep in mind the ship is a work in progress. It's a testing ship, and it's the Graf Zeppelin, as we all know. Things hopefully will be subject to change, and hopefully subject to change is exactly what, well, I wish for as well. Anyways, starting off, let's have a look at... Let's just talk about the difference between version 1 and version 2. Version 1 being the one with the, well, bit less derpy, the smaller dive bomber drop pattern, the really tiny one that has a 3.8 second bomb delay after a drop before they actually reach their target. And this is version 2, which does not have the faster fighter takeoff, and it's got the silly derpy artillery-like circular drop pattern with no bomb delay. Both of these carry the exact same dive bomber. So, the 135 not squishy as crap. Well, okay, let's see how squishy. Don't actually remember the exact health off the top of my head, but I am playing a Graf Zeppelin test version 1, so he will have the advantage against me in the air, and he's obviously going to get his fighters up in the air faster because he's got the half takeoff time bonus. But a lot of this, of course, depends on if he's doing a proper headwind launch or not. Speaking of headwind launch, I think he just did a bit of a ridiculous strafe. Speaking of headwind launch, however, I am doing one, and there's a lot of friendly ships near me, so I'm a little bit worried that a friendly might block me and get me caught up in a position I do not necessarily want to be in. But other than that, our ships are basically the exact same amount of planes, same amount of replacements, and, well, and all. Anyways, as this is version 2, this was the second ever game I played in the testing Graf Zeppelin. The first one I played was version 1. I had no real... Oh, okay, this is a game off one of my, off the currently only Graf Zeppelin stream I've actually done. And, as you can see, Montana, Iowa, Missouri, Hindenburg, Neptune. So there's a lot of anti-aircraft. I mean, we've got double Minotaur, Rune, Missouri, North Carolina, and a Cutterfuss, which... against a Graf Zeppelin actually is really good anti-air, considering the fact that we don't have HE bombs, we can't actually wipe out enemies' AA guns. I'm probably busy explaining something on stream, so I don't actually pay attention to what's going on with my fighter, but I realize quite rapidly what's actually happened, so I'm going to disengage strafe and pull it away. And because I am a Graf Zeppelin test version 2, it literally doesn't actually matter the angle at which I approach from. I'll have the exact same potential accuracy no matter what. Now that's a pretty big waste of my aircraft. I just wanted to see how much ham I could get going in there like that. But my rear gunners, of course I'm running expert rear gunners because there's nothing better to take there, did actually manage to take out both of their dive bomber, both of the floatplane fighters, and I Missouri finish off the enemy turpets, which I clicked 50,000 health off, who... I mean, we basically confirmed that the Hindenburg had no defensive anti-aircraft, so potentially I could attack him later on. However, do keep in mind that the current Graf Zeppelin test version, compared to the previous test version with the AP dive bombers, is much weaker against cruisers. Basically, Hindenburg is about the borderline of what you're going to pen or overpen, so you could be getting citadels, but for the most part you're going to overpen it. And we shall see some of that later on. And as I say, I have AP bombs. That's 50,000 of the enemy's turpets cracked away. I'm like, yeah, fun. Certainly not for that turpets. And I've had a lot of other people, like, you'll see some of it through, later on through this game. Anyways, I'm using my fighters to spot the object of eye. I mean, the enemies, I've lost one to disengage strafe, he's lost one to anti-aircraft, so I'm perfectly fine with that. We're currently in air equality, other than the fact that I've already, for all intents and purposes, gotten their turpets killed. So, what do I think about the current Graf Zeppelin version we have for testing you see right now? Well, positives, incredibly easy to use to click on people with. The downsides, of course, being no torpedo bombers, meaning no utility, meaning you can't actually attack destroyers properly, because you're just going to overpen them, if you even hit them. Another positive is that you do have quite alright fighters, they're not absolutely terrible. Compared to any other tier A carrier in comparing individually each plane, then yes, you do have the worst, but 175 knots can be quite okay to have. Although Enterprise with speed upgrade is 174, Shokaku's 171, you're faster than the US planes by like anything from like, I think like 5 to 8 knots or something like that. Anyways, the enemy aircraft carrier seems to be coming towards my North Carolina Bismarck Fletcher group. So, with my other fighter being basically out of the game, right now I'm just going to do a little bit of a derpy head on strafe, see if I can't thin some of them out. Unfortunately, I only pick up 5 planes, but I do manage to pick up some of his fighters as well. Now, you can see there, I failed to realize I failed to actually order my plane to attack the fighter, but now it's way too late to actually do a disengage strafe onto the dive bombers, so whatever I thinned out is whatever I thinned out, and I've left the enemy's plane on 1, but I think I'm actually bleeding to the Neptune at the moment, so just trying to pull away. And then you can see this is me going in to attack this Hindenburg. This guy is pretty heavily anti-aircraft spec. I don't have the post-battle results screen, you can always find them on my stream, but this is really just me going ham and seeing if I can't actually attack a Hindenburg. 1 hit, 1 overpen. These bombs are being dropped perfectly onto the Citadels. 3 hits, 2 overpens, 1 deflection on his turret, and last one, another 2 overpens. So that went incredibly well for me. That was just a waste of planes, and a waste of planes it definitely was. Look at the amount of losses I've already suffered. But like like I made clear on my stream, this is really just me trying to see what I could do, what I could get away with. Like I said, second game, and I've not had the same amount of time as I've had with the previous version to literally go into a training group and attack every single ship available. In this case, I've basically just spent a little bit of time to try out some of the stuff I can get away with and some of the stuff I can't. In terms of total plane bleed, though, I'm definitely bleeding a lot more than my opposing Graf Zeppelin, because, I mean, I've flown into a Montana plus... No, I've flown into a Hindenburg twice, so he's already picked up like 15, almost 20 of my planes. Probably something along those lines. So in terms of my dive bombers, I'm basically just wasting them right now. But yeah, back to what I think about this as a game mechanic for my targets then. Take a look at that enemy turret. I'm sure any of you guys that have been looking around for Graf Zeppelin content, or been watching people streaming Graf Zeppelin. I promise you I'll be streaming more of this once I find the time. I mean, and right now, all the evenings in this week, I'm busy. I'm going to be away for the weekend as well, so there's... Unfortunately, I will not actually be able to guarantee you any serious Graf Zeppelin or any content at all throughout this upcoming week, perhaps afterwards, but with Omni getting back into the competitive scene, we've got basically trainings every single evening, and like I said, I'm away for the weekend, but basically the enemy Turpers probably didn't have a good time. Excuse me. He basically got 50,000 of his health clicked away at the start, and that's nothing he can do about it. 9 bombs of 50k means that a lot of them, well, a bunch of them were Citadels, which means that would have been health he would have struggled to regenerate, because Citadels are only 10% regeneratable for battleships, except the Warspite, which take 33% regen, which is the same as that of a cruiser. So, how much skill did I input into it? Well, I stacked up my dive bombers and I left-clicked on them. That required a lot, didn't it? The answer to that is no, it didn't. So, I inputted no skill whatsoever. I attacked him from a dodgy angle. I didn't even have to line up, which meant that this Turpin had absolutely no chance whatsoever of even attempting to evade my dive bomber drop, which meant that he basically... And I'm gonna do something pretty nasty in a way here. I'm gonna compare it to old World of Tanks artillery, and for any World of Tanks veterans, I'm sure we'll all know and love the mechanic of just getting one-shotted across half the map without being able to see your target, without being able to do anything about it. You can't even dodge it properly because you don't know when the shells are fired at you, so you don't know when you need to try to swerve, and a lot of it's down to RNG, so you don't even... You know, even if you do know exactly when he fired at you, you only have like 2 seconds to actually try to evade the inbound shell, and if it hits you on the deck, it could instantly kill you. If it hit you somewhere else, who knows? You know, if it hit you on the... you know, it hit in the front of the turret or the gun mantlet, it could even do 0 damage. But, basically, it's not good for the game, because there's no skill like with torpedo bombers. Like, you know, I see the torpedo bombers coming, they're 8 kilometers away from me, I see them coming, I can turn towards them, I can turn away from them, I can trigger, you know, I can try to see what they're doing, you know, I can keep turning so that he has to spend more time circling to line up a drop angle. Or in the case of Enterprise AP bombers, I could turn my ship, which means he either has to pull away and readjust, or predict how I'm going to actually turn my ship in advance, because if you do, even on a rather sizable target such as that of a German battleship like the Tirpitz class, for Tirpitz class, Bismarck class battleship, you know, even just 3-4 seconds of turning from a standstill, no rudder shift, and by the way, strafing over islands is terrible. But even just a little bit of turning means that about 25-30% of the target area has already, of the ship that's within the target area is no longer ship. It's now in the water. Of course, you could get lucky and every single bomb goes center and hits you anyways. But you could also get, even if we go, if we just go by a normal distribution of bombs, then most likely you'll have evaded 1 or 2 of his dive bombers. That's not the case with the Graf Zeppelin Test 1. It's completely up to if you lead the target correctly or not with a 3.8 second bomb drop delay, and in my opinion that is not difficult to do at all. If you guys were watching my stream, I'll leave 2 links in the description of this video below. You can check them out. It's basically 2 German, Bismarck class battleship one-shots for all intents and purposes, one with version 1, one with version 2, and you can see what's basically up with it. The version 1 click was a pretty poorly aimed one. It was actually slightly offset to the side, so I did not deserve to get the amount of damage I did. And it was just no real input of skill from my end either against that. And then there's the version 2 click, which is basically just point, click, and the boom, he's dead. Yep. Anyways, stacking up more dive bombers. I've attacked the Montana earlier for 30,000 health with my bombers. I mean, since he had no real AA, if I had double dive bomber, triggered his damage control party with AT bomb, set him on fire, come back again with torpedo bombers, can get a flooding. Obviously, I can do a lot more damage to a ship like that. However, the more time I spend loitering around a target, the more time a more competent enemy aircraft carrier can actually come along to interrupt my attack and prevent me from getting the final stage of the damage over time in. Anyways, this time it is an enemy Iowa. I can see that he's trying to reverse a little bit, and well, with artillery shells, it's really down to luck whether or not I do incredibly devastating damage or not. And I think 8 hits for almost 30-something thousand-ish. I wasn't paying actually that much attention, just like that dive bomber. I'm not gonna go for it because it's flying too close to the Missouri. But this guy's now at 4,000 health, and our Missouri group should easily be able to obliterate the remainder of his health. Anyways, another derpy head-on strafe, mostly just trying to clip both of the squads and thin both of them out. Do manage to kill 2 planes off each. And now the enemy fighters are coming. I'm going to drag my other fighter to the left because I figure that the enemy aircraft carrier is actually double tagging to chase that. And now I'm going to come along with this. Going to disengage 1 squadron onto his dive bomber and then a little bit too early order my second squad to head on to his remaining fighter. And it seems like he wants to... Oh, no, I thought he was going to run, but he didn't. So here, I might not actually have the ammunition to take his squadron down. Unfortunately, enemy Iowa gets a heal off. He actually does a disengage strafe, and since I'm out of ammo, I'm just going to pull away, because, I do not have the ammo to do a counter strafe against them. Although, getting attacked there could get me, luck to kill him off. Anyways, with that attack, I'm basically deplaned, because the enemy Hindenburg has knocked out a large portion of my total... dive bombers. It was mostly me being extremely wasteful. You shouldn't try to do stuff like this. I mean, knowing that chances are you're not going to be able to get a proper click against them for a large amount of damage. Now, as you can see here, I'm on 120k damage for 3 attacks, 1 against the Hindenburg, which was completely pointless. If I had a proper series of torpedo bombers and dive bombers able to do a damage over time against the Hindenburg, knowing that it doesn't have a defensive anti-aircraft, because if he did, he would have used it against me already. Knowing that fact, there is a good chance that I could have been able to just upfront kill him with something like a Shokaku or an Enterprise, although again at a pretty significant cost of my aircraft. Same going for, of course, attacking Montana, Iowa, AA Spec Hindenburg, Missouris, which I'm going to go and attack, the Missouri Bismarck group right now as well. But first, before I do that, obviously going to stack up my planes, and I'm sure this requires so much skill. So, what do I think about Graf Zeppelin and how would I fix it? Long story made short, I would give the Graf Zeppelin a 2-2-1 setup, because at the end of the day, what makes a carrier enjoyable, what makes a carrier fun, and what makes a carrier competitive, it is the ability to be versatile. Your ability to go in, eliminate destroyers, attack battleships, maybe even attack cruisers that are not paying attention or do not have the defensive AA up because you baited them, for example. Stuff like this these are the targets that you actually want to attack, and otherwise against battleships, you want to have a damage over time attack ability, something that in this case, the Graf Zeppelin does not, because you have no ability to set fires or flooding with your aircraft. Now I'm actually getting deplaned of dive bombers here. Oh dear, here we go. And you can see, I'm attacking this base marker completely, perfectly, from the side. And I absolutely do not care at all. Because I have a perfect circle for a drop pattern. Now I'm just going to fly them a little bit away from the Missouri, who is trying to catch up. And you can see, I clicked away the vast majority of this Bismarck's remaining health. And he survived on 500, so he probably did not have a very good time of that at all. And the enemy Graf Zeppelin's dead, so I have nothing more to pay attention to. But here we go, 160,000 damage. And the amount of skill I inputted into this was not really much. Of course, 2-3-0 with torpedo bombers would have been much worse. You know, I would have upfront killed the Montana, I would have upfront killed the Turpin at the beginning, I would have definitely killed the Hindenburg, he would have no way out of that. I would have killed that Bismarck without a problem, and I would not have bled as many planes, because the Hindenburg would have been dead, and would not have been there to kill my planes anymore. So yeah, how would I make it great again? 2-2-1, keep all torpedo bombers spread, reduce arming... increase arming distance by increasing arming time and reducing their speed, making them a lot harder to use against targets that actually are paying attention and actively trying to evade. Read destroyers. Take away any gimmicky bombs or gimmicky torpedoes, you know, stuff like that. Just make her a normal aircraft carrier, a normal, just like the Shokaku, just like the Enterprise. Lexington's a bit in hit and miss, but you know, a 1-1-1 Lexington. Give her versatility, the ability to damage. If good, you know, a good drop is performed, pretty much all targets, and give her basically nothing gimmicky, nothing special. What's going to be special about her would be her torpedo bomber pattern, the old diamond drop. I'll show you a couple of videos, clips from the old torpedo bomber pattern, and explain to you why I believe that can be made the best overall for a Graf Zeppelin. So here we have it, the old torpedo bomber pattern. We're looking at an attack against a Grosser first. I've got all my planes. This is a 2-3-0 setup. Each torpedo dealing 10,500 damage, and of course 15 of them. Obviously you can figure out the mathematics. There's a lot of potential damage to be dealt here. Anyways, it's broken. It was as broken as you'd expect. Incredibly powerful by a way long shot. But as you can maybe not as clearly see, but you can definitely notice by the drop pattern that it's a diamond drop pattern, which means you have one torpedo at the front, one at the back, and then a line abreast of 3. Now they do not travel in a perfect straight line forwards, they do actually have a slight spread on angle towards them. This is for their defense at AA panic, so that it still fans out as a wave. But as you can quite clearly see, I am dropping rather farther away from the target, and it is the back torpedo that dies first, and the front torpedo that dies kind of last in a way, in a sense. So yeah. Anyways, here are a few drops against destroyers. And this is my point. If we increase the arming time and reduce the torpedo speed, things like this would no longer be as viable, and a target that is actively trying to evade and only giving it 2 torpedo bomber squadrons of 5 each means that you can still keep the very high damage on squishy plane and slow plane. This is a very important thing. Meaning it's easy for a target, you know, on the receiving end of it to figure out what's going on, and because of the slow planes, it's easier for an opposing aircraft carrier to actually come in and react to the situation. And of course, the same goes for a destroyer. A destroyer that's actually actively paying attention will have a lot easier time surviving. Now here you can see I commit 2 bombers into a smoke, never expecting the Shimmer to actually leave it, considering the entire friendly team's behind. And we can see that in the event that somebody is locking themselves into a turn, or rather said in this case the Shimmer is being indecisive, he's going to end up taking some. Now the front one doesn't arm, but that was not the torpedo I was trying to use to actually hit him. But in my opinion, give her 2-2-1 setup, keep the same spread, reduce torpedo speed, increase arming time so that they still arm at the same distance, but it takes longer for them to get there, meaning that it'll be very strong against the type of ship you want them to attack, battleships, while still giving some versatility against any ship that may not be paying as good attention to their surroundings, or may be busy with something else and therefore cannot evade your torpedo bomber drop and have a dive bomber for HE utility setting fires and damacons. I hope you guys enjoyed this replay cast along with a little bit of talk about aircraft carrier Graf Zeppelin, and I shall see you guys in the next one.